What is going on, guys? I'm ready to talk about something very cool. It doesn't always feel cool when we're going through it, but it is cool. That is pushback. Pushback is something that happens when we are making significant changes to become the next level of ourselves. So, for the purpose of this video, because I could talk about this for probably 2 hours, I'm going to use 3 examples of pushback, and I'm going to give 3 tips on how to navigate through that pushback. So again, pushback is what happens when we are making significant changes actively, intentionally, to take it to the next level, to take our lives to the next level. Could be anything. So let's think in terms of dreams, because when we think about goals, those usually are shorter term. We have hundreds and hundreds of goals throughout our lives. Dreams, we might have, 4 or 5, if even, through our lifetime. So think about your dream. Think about who you're going to be when you reach it. Think about what life is going to look like, who's going to be around you, what you're going to be thinking, what you're going to be feeling. Just take a moment to really feel that. Could take like 30 seconds to a minute. Just feel it. And if it's hard to tap into, I would recommend pausing this video and just closing your eyes and let your imagination go wild. Don't put any boundaries on it. When you start tapping into the intention that has to go behind what you're doing to get to that, whatever that dream is, I'm assuming there's going to have to be a lot of changes. Otherwise, you would have already conquered that dream. So if we keep doing the same thing we've been doing, we're going to keep getting the same results. So we have to be so intentional and change so much that it realigns the trajectory of our future. Okay? So the 3 ways that we can experience pushback: 1, in people, our loved ones, our close friends. When we start behaving different, when we start living intentionally and acting different, they're going to notice, and it's uncomfortable for them. And that's okay. We have conditioned them to behave the way that they do towards us. We have a personality. They expect that personality to show up every time we're around them. So when we show up with a different personality, they are a little uncomfortable, which is reasonable. And so that's the first pushback you're going to get. And I'll go into detail in just a minute on that. The second pushback, and stay with me because I'm going to get a little heady here, is universal pushback. So that's more about the quantum field, how the environment around us reacts to us. It can seem almost like woo-woo sometimes, because we might find that when we're really conquering our goals and we're on the road to our dream, all of a sudden things start happening. Our husband leaves us, it's raining every single day, and we hydroplane in our car and now it's total. It's, stuff just starts happening, and it's universal pushback. If you don't believe that the environment has energy and that it's affected by what we present to it, think about this example. When you're in a public place, whether it's a party, a restaurant, whatever, have you ever experienced when somebody walks in, one person walks in, they don't say anything, they don't do anything, they just walk in, and the energy in the room shifts? A lot of times it'll get really quiet, or, there might be just a really uncomfortable vibe. I'm sure you've experienced that at some point. So think about that. That is the environment reacting to that person. Nobody's intentionally doing anything to that person. Nothing's intentionally happening to that person, but the environment changes a little bit. And of course, humans are the easiest way to read that. But think about in terms of animals. Our animals pick up on energy really quick. So once you start changing, the environment is going to react different to you, and it can get uncomfortable. So that's the second one. The third one, and this one's the trickiest one, is our self-belief. The views we hold towards ourselves. And I tell you, you guys, until you start tapping into that person that's aligned with your future self, you don't even know what kind of self-beliefs you have. When you start listening to what you're thinking and telling yourself and how you're talking about yourself, you'll realize how much these self-beliefs have held you back. But most of us live by default. We're kind of sleepwalking through life. We don't even know what we're telling ourselves most of the day. So when these pushbacks start happening, there are some tools we can do. So let's go back to the example of people, friends, family. So they're giving us some pushback. I have plenty of examples of this, so I'm gonna just try to use a couple. When we pick on ourselves a lot, people don't take us seriously. I wanted to own a business. I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to accomplish stuff. Hell, I still want to go to the Olympia one day. But I used to not take myself serious enough. And therefore, I would joke about all my faults with people. And I was sort of the scapegoat in my family. And so when I would go around my family and I was living intentionally and I was not aligned anymore with that past version of myself, I was pushing forward to my future version of myself. They reacted the same way. That, they wanted to treat me the same way, I should say. And so the jokes started coming out, the passive aggressive communication started coming out. And I didn't realize until I lived intentionally how much that was going on. So some things we do are putting intention behind every word we speak. And it's okay if there's nothing that needs to be said in the moment. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, but if you're filling that space with empty words, all you're doing is draining your energy. So I would really recommend don't talk unless there's a purpose to it. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but especially when you're in these uncomfortable situations, we tend to fill that void with just talking and laughing and making jokes, which is great. But when we're in the business of recreating ourselves and trying to take it to the next level, we do have to have a bit of seriousness to us, and we have to really put that intention behind it. And so some things that I did is I stopped laughing at jokes about me. I'm the youngest in my family as well, so it's super easy to pick on me. It's easy to pick on me. I used to be a drug addict. I was in jail all the time. I was the scapegoat. It was really easy to pick on me. So I had to retrain my family and my friends how to treat me. So I stopped laughing when they picked on me. And the biggest thing is I started saying when I was upset. If they said something and it kind of hit me in the gut, we get those little jabs sometimes. I would say something. I would say, and it was uncomfortable, you guys, but I stopped avoiding confrontation and I viewed confrontation as connecting me to the next best thing. If we don't have that confrontation sometimes, we're stuck in this old rut. So having those confrontations a lot of times is the gate to our dreams. So don't be afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations. They usually turn out better than you think. So I stopped laughing at myself. I stopped accepting certain behavior towards me. And that can look however it needs to for you. But just think about how would people treat that person that's going to reach that dream of yours. The person that's going to be standing in the shoes, you, in your future when you're living your dream, how are people going to be treating that person? And if anybody treats you differently in this current present moment, it's up to you to reteach them, to let them know you mean business. You're different. You're not that anymore. And you know what? If you lose a few friends, it's okay. People are meant to ebb and flow sometimes. We're not meant to stay in some people's lives forever. Okay? So really put intention behind when you speak. Speak up for yourself. Don't always laugh. It's okay not to laugh. You can even just sit there. The last example I'll give about people is I was in a podcast one time. I was invited onto a podcast. I was really excited. It was like my second one. And the guy caught me off guard. He started just kind of using these sexual undertones, and it was all guys watching. And I realized I'd gotten myself into a situation that was really uncomfortable, and it was a boundary that was crossed for me. I wasn't uncomfortable with what we were talking about, and I wasn't uncomfortable with how he was talking to me. And I remember that moment thinking, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. But because I didn't feel safe and I felt like my boundaries were being violated, I sat there with a straight face until he stopped. And there was long silences. He was like talking to himself for probably 2 minutes. And I sat there like this. Can you imagine on a podcast, like he's trying to like joke with me and stuff, and I just sit there like that? So, but what I did in addition to that, and this is really a key thing, you guys, is I didn't just give him the silent treatment. When he started talking about stuff that I wanted to talk about, that was about my professionalism and the fact that I was a bodybuilder, that I help other women bodybuild, and that was, the passion of my life. When he started talking about those things, I lit up and I let my personality come out, and I met him with that energy. So that's the other side of it. Don't be afraid to say something's not okay, but sure as hell follow that up with bringing a lot of good energy when people treat you the way that you want to be treated. It's kind of like a kid. You validate them, and validating them goes a lot further than punishing them. So if you're punishing someone, so to speak, make sure you set the intention to validate them later on. Have fun with them, laugh with them about something positive, not about, to your detriment. Okay, moving on, because I could get stuck forever. The second thing, universal pushback, quantum field pushback. This one's a little tricky. Basically, I'm going to wrap it in a nutshell. It just feels like the world's against you. You feel alone. You feel like everything's going wrong, even though you're making all the decisions that are in line with your dream. It just feels like things are going wrong. The gym shuts down and you just got in a workout routine. A hurricane comes and the grocery store's closed and you can't meal prep. Like literally crazy stuff is going to start happening. Those are just a couple examples. But I want you to remember this. If you can stay persistent and stay in line with that person that's going to be in those shoes in the future, living your dream, when it's tough, think about how easy it's going to be that person when times are easy. When the conditions are optimal, then it's going to be super easy to be that person and to fill those shoes. So instead of being bummed out when things are happening and conflicts arise, I would highly suggest you be happy about it and embrace it and realize that, this is an opportunity for me to grow exponentially. Because if we're comfortable all the time and the conditions are perfect and everything's set up fine, we can't always step into the next level of ourselves because we're too comfortable. One thing I want to say about that too is most people live in their comfort zone. You are a small percentage if you're uncomfortable a lot of the time. If your dreams make you uncomfortable, you're onto something good. I find I'm uncomfortable most days. I'm usually pretending I'm confident when I'm not. I've done it a little bit on this video. I tend to pretend that, things are going the way I want them to go if they're not, because that way I'm aligning and letting the universe begin to work in my favor. I'm not letting that universal pushback push me back into that position that I've been in my whole life where I missed the mark. I'm not quite there. Rise above it. Okay, we've got more power. We have more control than we realize, you guys. It's all about us. It's all up to us to create that narrative. All right, the last thing. I knew this was going to turn out longer than I intended. Self-belief. Y'all, this is going to be the hardest one. And I'll be honest with you. I would compare going through a self-belief shift to this metaphor here, to this example. It's like you're in a jungle by yourself and it's dark. You have no idea where you are. Nobody's telling you the way. And you're expected to get out of the jungle. Like it feels paralyzing sometimes. It feels like you just kind of have to sit there until it passes. And sometimes you do, that's cool. But our self-beliefs are everything. But in order to know what our self-beliefs truly are, we have to know how to recognize what we're thinking. So that means give yourself space. Don't always be surrounded by people. Don't always, have that space filled. Practice meditation. Begin to listen to what you're thinking. You'll begin to be able to recognize what you're thinking. And I guarantee you, if you have not reached your dream yet, there are thoughts that are no longer serving you. And whatever thoughts you're thinking over and over and over again are your beliefs. So if you can recognize those beliefs and get in your head and begin to rewire those beliefs, they can serve you instead of hinder you. And think of it this way. Don't be mad about it. Just know that the reason why you have these self-beliefs that are really uncomfortable and sort of abusive sometimes, they're there to protect you because we don't want to get hurt again. At some point along our life, we got hurt and we developed a belief and we accepted it so we wouldn't get hurt again. It might be that, we'll always work in our job. We can't get a better job. Or it might be that we'll never get to a point in our physique that we're happy with. We'll never find somebody that treats us really good. We develop all these beliefs, and especially if you have patterns in your life, maybe you have a person that keeps showing up in your life, it's because you have a belief about yourself and it's attracting that person. So it's up to us to change our beliefs. So once you recognize that dysfunctional belief, you guys go in there, tell yourself the opposite over and over and over again, and eventually you're not going to know the difference. So a more practical application of this that I'll give you is pretend. I've said this before, just pretend. If you're not feeling confident one day, maybe you're leading a group and it's new and you're terrified. Pretend you're not. Pretend that you've done this for years. It's the easiest thing ever. I've done it with these videos. You know, I used to be really uncomfortable to talk in front of a camera. My voice would start shaking and I'd freak out. But I started pretending that wasn't happening. And I started pretending that I loved it. And y'all, it didn't take long for me to love it. And same thing with being a leader and speaking with authority. When you start pretending that you have authority, you start pretending that you're holding yourself to the standards of a leader, you're not going to know the difference at some point. So there's power in pretending, I promise. I'm going to wrap it up there. And so again, 3 pushback categories maybe. People we love, quantum field, or self-beliefs. I almost forgot. And so feel free to rewatch this because I'm not going to remember all of, the tips I gave you to help shift those. It's funny, you guys, I rap on here. I don't have notes or anything. And so when I'm supposed to be done, I truly believe I lose the words because I'm supposed to be done. All right. I'm all over the place. So I hope this brought you a little bit of value. If it did, please leave a message in the comments below. Feel free to share your experience. Subscribe to my channel. I will have a lot more videos coming out like this, along with my fitness videos. I love you guys. Go power up.